What's going on, everybody? So, with the success of asking Instagram what were the best smelling colognes ever, that video did very, very well. Best I've had a video do in quite a while in such a short amount of time, honestly. And I had a lot of good feedback asking, I asked, would you guys like to see more content like this? So, I got a resounding yes for the most part, and I decided to reach back to Instagram one more time and get some input on what they believe to be the best cheap fragrance of all time. Some of these surprised me. I was very, very surprised with some of these that made the list, and there's two in particular that just got a resounding amount of answers that I don't have that we will put on screen and discuss nonetheless. One of these, you guys have been on me for a long time to get, and for some reason or another, I never seem to pick it up. But I've got 10 of them voted on by Instagram. No influence on my end. I just counted up the votes to see what got the most mentions, compiled the list, and I'm here to talk to you about them. So stay tuned. Starting with one that I was actually quite happy to see get mentioned. From the very first mention, it made me smile. I have not worn it in a while. It actually sparked me to wear it as my scent of the day today at the recording of this video. That, of course, is Burberry Touch. One of the best affordable, inoffensive, lightly powdery fragrances ever, in my personal opinion. So to see this get so many mentions just made me feel good because it's one that I personally really enjoy. One of the best violet leaf fragrances ever made. Has a little bit of a light powdery nuance, a little bit of a dry, slightly creamy, woody feel. It's got a little bit of citrus up top, a little orangey feel, but not much. It's soft, but still performs really well. Like the actual aroma is a soft smell, but it has a little bit of power to it. It can push off the skin pretty well. It will project hour and a half, 2 hours pretty strongly. Not super strong, but, not a weak projector in any way in the first hour and a half to 2 hours. And then I get every bit of 6 to 8 hours on my skin every time I wear it. Historically, this is my second bottle. I used to have a 50 ml bottle years ago. This is my 30 ml bottle that I've had for quite some time. This is a lot of people's go-to back when they were in high school. This was a daily wear work fragrance for a lot of people. It's just an all-time great cheapie. So I couldn't agree more with this being in this particular video topic because I completely agree. Definitely one of the best cheap fragrances of all time is Burberry Touch. This next one I wasn't surprised to see make the list. I figured this would get its fair share of mentions, and it actually got mentioned like top 3 or top 4 mentions easily. It got a lot. It got brought up a lot. Some people put one fragrance because I asked one fragrance, but some people put 2, 3, 4 fragrances in their answer. And this was in a few of the multiple fragrance answers. It is the infamous Nautical Voyage. At the recording of this, I'm fresh out the shower, and it's what I'm wearing right now. The first 2 in the video, this topic sparked me to want to wear them because I haven't worn them in a while. And some people will hate on this fragrance, but I just don't understand why, unless you just have a lot of high-class, high-end luxury fragrances, and your taste has evolved beyond these petty, cheap synthetic fragrances. And you turn your nose up at them, which I still don't completely understand being that way, but some people are like that. And this is a great collection builder when you're starting out. This is great for your kids, for teenagers, guys in high school, college, that don't have a lot to spend, want something that's fresh and uplifting and just smells good to most people. You can grab for under 20 bucks. For the longest time, you could get this for like 12 bucks online. You can still find it in the $15 to $20 range in most places online, discounters, Amazon. It's widely available. It shows up at the rack stores all the time. At most rack stores, you can find a bottle of Nautical Voyage. It's aquatic and watery. It's got this bright, fresh green apple, a little bit of a white floral tone, more of a clean musk, aquatic type of feel with that green apple fruitiness up top. It's the best Nautica fragrance ever. It's probably the best super cheap aquatic you can get. Honestly, it's hard to beat. It's hard to beat in my personal opinion. So, like I said, I wasn't surprised to see this one get mentioned over and over. Another one that I completely agree that if I was to compile the list, I probably would have put this one on here anyways myself, because I agree. It's definitely one of the best cheap fragrances of all time. Nautical Voyage. So one that I've never smelled before. I know has a little bit of hype around it because I'm not a big fan of Zara fragrances, but Zara Rich Warm Addictive. This one got like the third most mentions, if I remember correctly. It was right there around the amount of mentions that Nautical Voyage got. I don't have this. I've never smelled it before. According to Fragrantica, its main accords are sweet honey, coconut, tobacco, woody. Lighter side is floral, lactonic, tropical, vanilla, powdery. It's supposedly, most relatably, according to votes, smells kind of like Mercedes-Benz Club Black and Banana Republic tobacco and tonka bean, which I've never smelled the Banana Republic fragrance. I love Mercedes-Benz Club Black. What performance is like, I have no idea. What the quality of smell is like, I would assume on the more synthetic side. Zara fragrances are pretty cheap for the most part. I don't think they make anything that costs over $40 directly from Zara. You can find their fragrances very cheap. I've had many people suggest me checking them out over the years. They've just never really interested me. That's why I never reach out and buy any of them. They put out so many fragrances. It's unbelievable on a year-by-year basis. And apparently this one is the one to try. From what I saw, there's like 3 or 4 different versions of it. So I went with the main version that doesn't have a year attached to it. I don't know. Supposedly it's great. It's the only Zara fragrance that got mentioned in the question on the IG stories. And it was repetitively mentioned. So maybe it's something I need to take a look at. If there's only one that I try, apparently this is the one. According to followers of mine on Instagram, one of the best cheap fragrances of all time is Zara Rich Warm Addictive. This one surprised me. I was not expecting this because I did put a price point on it. I said cheap fragrances under $50. So I did put a dollar amount, under $50 USD, to give kind of a guideline, because that's usually what I consider a cheap fragrance. If you can get it for under 50 bucks USD, obviously 40 to 50 bucks is going to be on the higher end of that, bordering in the what I would consider affordable. After cheap, I think it goes into the affordable range. But Versace Pour Homme, I did not expect to see this get mentioned as much as it did. And here's where I'm going to blow your mind. This got the most mentions. This was the most answered to my question, was Versace Pour Homme as far as best cheap fragrance of all time. If I was to pick one, according to their votes, what they answered the question with, apparently this is the best cheap fragrance of all time, according to those that participated that follow me on IG. I was shocked. Do I think it's not good and doesn't deserve to be here? Absolutely not. I just wasn't expecting it to blow everything else out the water. Like it had the most votes by like 5 or 6, which is a pretty good margin to stretch between, honestly. Super inoffensive, what I've always deemed to be the real king of the office over Prada L'Homme. Because this is even more inoffensive, even more safer. More safe's not an actual phrase. Even safer than Prada L'Homme. This stuff is great. I wore it not that long ago, like 2 weeks ago. Beautiful neroli, citrus, light creamy woods. It's smooth and soft. It's a little soapy. It's a beautiful fragrance. This works well, dressed up, dressed down, signature scent type of stuff. If you're the type that doesn't like some loud in-your-face fragrance or something that's high character that could potentially irritate those with sensitive noses or get headaches easy or whatever from synthetics, this is a good fragrance to counter all of that stuff because you just smell fresh and clean. You smell really good when you wear this one. So, shocked to see how many votes it got, but not shocked that most people seem to think that Versace Pour Homme is one of the best cheap fragrances of all time. Admittedly, if I was curating this list, this probably would not have made it. I do think it's a great cheap fragrance, but I don't deem it to be one of the best of all time. But hey, my followers on IG, they absolutely love them some Halloween Man X from Jesus Del Pozo. The reason it wouldn't have made it for me is because the opening's a little A little on the harsh synthetic side, more on the harsh side. I can deal with synthetic. It's when it's a little harsh that it's not that appealing. And it's not terrible, because, I mean, technically Club de Nuit Intense Man's harsher than this, and I don't mind that opening at all. I don't know, it's just something about it. It's a little too sweet synthetic. I think it's because it's so sweet up top. But once you start to get into the heart of this fragrance and you get that roasted coffee starting to come in a bit more, it really changes the game, and this becomes a great fragrance for the money. Performance is fantastic for this. You can find 4.2 ounce bottles like this in the sub $40 range, usually around $30. If you look hard enough, you can find it in the 30 some odd dollar range, even with prices having gone up in the last 6 months or so. You can still get this one for a very affordable price, and it doesn't smell like everything else. It is in the realm of Ferragamo Uomo Signature, but not quite exactly the same. It kind of has a little bit of a vanilla sweetness with this roasted coffee. There's kind of a mineral, wet concrete type of smell to it. I know that sounds strange when I say that, but it blends well with the sweetness and the coffee to make something that kind of sets it apart from the rest. So honestly, not one that I would have put on there, but this actually got quite a bit of mentions. I mean, enough mentions to crack the top 10 of all the different fragrances people answered as what they consider the best cheap fragrance of all time. So if you haven't gotten your nose on this one yet, according to Instagram, you really should, because they think it's one of the best cheap fragrances of all time. You know, when you don't see a fragrance get worn a lot for Scent of the Day posts, you don't see it get mentioned much. You yourself don't wear it as much as you used to. You kind of forget how good a fragrance is sometimes. And it's nice to see that it hasn't been forgotten, but according to Instagram, one of the best cheap fragrances of all time is Calvin Klein's CK1 Shock. Hey, this isn't my first bottle, and this bottle's like halfway empty. I just haven't worn it in a while. I still think this is the best beginner tobacco, because you can get it for 20 bucks. You can still get it for 20 bucks. 200 mLs for 30 bucks. It's really hard to beat. It's got this tangerine, orangey type of smell going on up top. Lovely, smooth, sweet tobacco. There's a little floral tone in the heart, but not much. I believe it's a little bit of orange blossom that's in there, if I remember correctly. It's got a little bit of that petally orange blossom smell. But it's a great tobacco fragrance. Like I said, this one's really hard to beat. And it's one that is easy to forget about when you don't wear it enough. And that's been my own doing. I haven't wore it in quite a while. And now that I've smelled it for the first time in God knows how long, it reminds me of how much I do enjoy this one and how good of a fragrance it actually is. So this may be jumping into the rotation here over the next several days. It's a very, very good fragrance. I'm so glad this got voted in. Because it's really good stuff, you know. Would I have deemed it one of the best ever? I don't know if I would have sat here and really tried really hard to compile the best possible list. This very well could have made it if I was curating the list. Because I have to agree. Because I still think it's, like I said before, I still think it's the best cheap way to check out a tobacco note and see if you like it. Because it does smell really, really damn good. Terrible for the heat, great for the cool weather. One of the best cheap fragrances of all time. CK1 Shock. Okay, so here's one that you guys in the comments will probably hit me with the I told you so stuff. This is the fragrance I was talking about that you guys have been on me for a long time. I'm talking years. You guys have been on me to get this one. Rasasi Hawas. Yes, it falls, from what I understand, it falls somewhere in between Invictus and Invictus Aqua 2016. And supposedly it's even better than Invictus Aqua 2016. My man Sam Broom, shout out to my stepbrother Sam Broom. He swears by this stuff. He told me he's gotten countless compliments at work with this fragrance. According to Fragrantica, main accords a citrus, fruity, aquatic, amber, fresh, warm, spicy, animalic, sweet, woody, musky. I believe it's got a little bit of plum, some watery notes, stuff like that. So I've never smelled it personally. I know you can get it for $50 or less in most places. I think this is the kick in the pants for me. The next time I buy a fragrance, whether it's one or several, if it's just one, it's going to be Rasasi Hawas. Because this got, I want to say, the second most mentions behind Versace Pour Homme, if I remember correctly. It was like, oh damn, they're going to make me eat these words. Because you guys have been on me. I got to give credit where credit is due. You guys have been on me. Shame on me for not having picked this one up yet. I've said multiple times, eventually I'll pick it up. Well, I'm here to say I'm going to get it. It's been voted on by my followers from Instagram as one of the best of all time. That's a heavy statement to make. So if you guys feel that strongly to where it's making a voted on list like this, I need to get Rasasi Hawas. So be on the lookout in the very near future for my first impressions and potential full review on apparently one of the best cheap fragrances of all time in Rasasi Hawas. I was not surprised to see this one show up. This one got a decent amount of votes. It didn't crack the top 5, but it definitely got enough mentions to be in the top 10, I'll tell you that. Because I think individually there was around 40 some odd fragrances mentioned in total. Yeah, I think it just cracked 40, like 41 or 42 single, at least one time a fragrance got mentioned. And Ferragamo F Black got its fair share. A lot of people brought this one up. Polarizing, sure. One of the best, most hyped cheapies of all time in this community. Absolutely. I completely agree with that. I could see why people would want to vote this one as one of the best cheapies of all time. It deserves it. A lot of creamy aromatic lavender. There's a fruitiness. There's a peppery dry spice here. It's got a little bit of similarity to La Nuit de l'Homme. It does smell like a cheap copy, technically. That's not one-to-one. Does smell a bit more synthetic, but does a really good job. This stuff can pull a nice compliment here and there. Some people can't stand the way this smells. I've seen a multitude on both sides of the board in the comment section on my full review video that I did on this fragrance well over a year ago, like a year and a half ago or something like that. And it can be polarizing. Some people fall into the hype, end up not liking it. That's what it is when you blind buy a fragrance. It's not that easy to try this one. Not that many people have a Ferragamo store near them to where they can go try a tester, because not everybody carries Ferragamo fragrances. But the beauty of this is at least it's cheap when you blind buy it. And if you don't like it, there's bound to be somebody around you that does. But more people than not really, really enjoy this one. It's heralded as one of the best all time, as you can tell based on the votes here. Ferragamo F Black, one of the best cheap fragrances of all time. This is another one that I was shocked to get mentioned as many times as it did. I don't think I would have put this one in here, but it is a great cheapie. Now, if we were talking top 20 or 30 of all time, yeah, it might make that for me for sure, because it's a great cheap alternative to Acqua di Gio. It's kind of a spicier take, if you will. It's Periello's 360 Red. I haven't worn this in a very, very long time. It smells great. It performs better than Acqua di Gio, It's good stuff. Definitely pulls a compliment, I can say, based on experience, and a lot of people have mentioned this one. Like I said, I was surprised it got mentioned enough to crack the top 10. Not surprised it got mentioned, surprised it made the top 10 to make the video. I haven't seen this one at a rack store in a very long time. This bottle came from a Marshall's. If you can find them, 20 bucks or less, yeah, by all means, roll the dice. It's worthy. It's just as synthetic. The quality doesn't really smell any different than actual Giorgio Armani Acqua di Gio. This performs better. It's a bit spicier. Honestly, it smells a little bit better, if I'm being completely honest here. It just doesn't, I guess, resonate with the nostalgia factor the way the original does, but it's a damn good clone. Was it an intentional clone? I don't know. It smells like it may have been. There's a little bit of a tweak and twist to kind of change it a bit because it's much spicier, but it's definitely got that aquatic green freshness going on. High compliment factor stuff. This is above 6 hours longevity on my skin, and it wears heavy with the projection in the first hour and a half to 2 hours. This stuff is loud. If you spray it heavy, you're going to choke yourself out, and you're going to have a big, massive scent bubble. So be mindful, I guess, if you're going to spray it heavy, be mindful of not spraying up front. Spray more sides and rear to create a, I guess, massive trail if you're a heavy sprayer. Because if you're spraying too much up here, all up in your face, you probably choke yourself out with this one, because it's quite powerful. It's surprisingly sneaky powerful. According to Instagram, one of the best cheap fragrances of all time is Periello's 360 Red. Last, but most certainly not least, this is another one that I anticipated seeing some mentions. Didn't necessarily know if it would get enough mentions to crack the video, but lo and behold, it did, and it's a deserved spot. I think it's a deserved spot. This has been hyped to death over the years. A lot of people have spent their $30 or less to get this bottle because it's been heralded as a beast performer. That's a little bit different. It's extremely masculine, and it's got bordering niche quality scent. That's kind of all the things that have been said about Bentley for Men Intense over the years. And a lot of it seems to be very, very true. While I do personally like Bentley for Men, the original, more than Bentley for Men Intense, I'm not going to knock it. It's good stuff. It's boozy. It's spicy. It's very smoky and got this rough, rugged, animalic, slightly animalic leather anyways. It's got an edginess to it. Dense woods, very dense woods. The bay leaf's heightened here as well. It adds kind of an earthy backbone to it. Whereas with the original, it's more boozy and spicy. It doesn't have all that smoke and heavy leather and bay leaf, but still has the dense woods. It's a little bit more wearable. This is a bit more rough and rugged and in your face, built for the cold. You don't need a lot of sprays unless you really want to make a statement. Then you can dial up a few more sprays with this one. Not one I would ever want to spray heavy. Traditionally, I don't really do more than 4. It's very strong on my skin. This stuff screams off of my skin. It always has. 4 is me wanting to make a statement. For some people, making a statement with this fragrance might be 8 to 10 sprays. That's a lot. I won't do that many, but you might. This is also a much older bottle as well. I don't know what formulations are like. Some people say it's not the same as it used to be. Some people say, oh, it's just your skin chemistry. So you guys tell me, how does your bottle perform? Because my bottle is lights out beast. And I got it for like 25 bucks. You can still get them for around 30 or less. It is one of the best affordable buys you can get that are under 50 bucks. I mean, I absolutely cannot knock it for making this list. Like I said, it's earned, it's deserved. I'm kind of glad it made the list because this is one that I've always deemed the hype to be justified on. In my opinion, as well as my followers on Instagram, one of the best cheap fragrances of all time is definitely Bentley for Men Intense. Well, that's the 10. And until next time, do me a real quick favor. Go ahead and like, comment, subscribe. Because I do appreciate all the feedback, and I love hearing from you guys. Interesting list. Would I have chosen all of these 10 specifically if I was making the list? No. This list would have probably looked very different. But a few of these would have made it. I'm very happy to see Burberry Touch make it. That deserves it. Nautical Voyage definitely would have made it. CK1 Shock, F Black, Bentley for Men Intense, stuff like that all deserve it. That's probably lateral picks that I would have made as well. Ones that surprised me, Halloween Man X, Versace Pour Homme, Periello's 360 Red, stuff like that really surprised me. The Zara fragrance, I did not see that coming at all. But hey, I asked, they answered, we compiled it, we talked about it. I thank you all for watching the whole way through, that stuck it through to the end. And until next time, I will say, if you get your hands on any of these 10 and you give them a spray now, you might end up thanking me and my Instagram followers later, because you're going to smell great and you're not going to spend a lot of money. Have a good one, guys.